I don't know what the statistical breakdown is for how many female fans we have, but they're few and far between. But Angie, you've been watching Red Cow since like 2018 or so, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like tried to work out a while back. I'm not 100%, but yeah, I think 2018. Seabra Foods.
Seabra Foods. So that was that like weird market we went to in Fall River. They had like Brazilian versions of everything, I think.
Yeah.
This is a local small form regional grocery store.
And how does somebody from Wales discover like our weird Fall River Portuguese supermarket run?
You'll have to ask the YouTube algorithm for that one, don't you? You just popped up in my like For You feed one day, and I was like, let's see what this is. And then I watched it, and I got curious.
And you're like, this is for me.
This is for me, yeah. And then I found Box Mac, and I was like, oh shit, yeah.
For those who are Box Mac fans, Angie has sent in 2 major boxes. The first one was like filled with like a lot of UK like Cup Macs, Instant Macs.
I think I sent the Snackaroni, which essentially got the UK banned from sending Macs into you guys.
Oh, it was disgusting.
This is Snackaroni from Marshall's, UK-based Cup Mac. It was just a boil and eat.
Extra gross. Ugh. Absolutely disgusting.
Oh.
0 stars. Spicy out of nowhere. Holy moly. It's like a satire of a macaroni and cheese.
It is terrible.
It's like a practical joke.
Wow.
What the hell is this? Is that a Junt's Cart sweatshirt that you have on right now?
It is, if you can just about see it.
See, if you want one, folks, tpublic.com, you got it. That's a pretty good design. A fan did that design. I have a matching one as well. And then you sent in a second box not so long ago, like a year ago. And that one had, EJ, do you remember we got in, it was called the Big Daddy Peanut Butter Chocolate Bar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We all ate that thing like gluttonous ladies and the tramps.
A Big Daddy for a whale of a wife.
Whoa, there's no like inner wrapping.
Well, look, as much as we love chatting with you and we would, we love having you on the show, there's a reason that you're on the show.
There is.
It's not just to talk about Box Mac and some of your, and thank you very much for those lovely boxes. Look, yeah, we just mentioned like we've had fans send in artwork. We had somebody send in dolls, like homemade dolls of us. We have a quilt, a mac and cheese quilt. We have amazing fans. They've made incredible things for us. It's really kind of an incredible and amazing thing. When I meet new people who don't know anything about the channel, I try to impress that aspect of it on them. Because first I'm like, it's like a comedy mac and cheese show. There's a podcast over here. It's always very hard to explain. But I'm like, but we do have fans who send us things from around the world. So Angie, why don't you tell the audience what, for those who don't know, for those who aren't 70 plus, what is cross stitch?
It's a form of, I guess, like sewing tapestry, but it uses little boxes, I guess you would describe it as on the fabric. So it's a 4-point stitch that forms a cross, funnily enough, hence the name. So it's kind of, I guess you can describe it as like very early pixel art.
So you take a needle and you take like a stitch and you create these little crosses until you have a design. Is that right? And it's like the sorts of things made out of cross stitch are like tapestries, like you can, there's cross stitch blankets. Like what sorts of things that people make?
You can do all sorts. I've got one that was done for me when I was christened. Like you get that simple designs that, they're done on sort of smaller bits of fabric, but bigger spacing, I guess you'd say, between the individual points. And then up to like massive pieces, and so it's done by like how many stitches per inch.
Yeah, I mean they're so small and close together that I don't think it's like obvious to the naked eye like how small the fabric is that you're working with. We know that John is like a huge fan of granny squared blankets, like knitted blankets. Did you ever kind of want him to get into cross stitch? Like, hey, like maybe could I sell you a cross stitch thing?
No, I don't think I did, but it was mentioned in like one episode of Junt's Cart where you went to like a Joann's fabric with your mum, and then I didn't even think about it, and then I started doing this and I was like, oh wait a minute, I think there's a Joann's fabric where they mentioned cross stitch.
What about like cross stitch? You ever try that?
I've never tried cross stitch.
Yeah.
I've never been successful at knitting or crocheting.
But no, I've been cross stitching for years, like on and off. Like I'll pick up a project, I'll do the project, and then I'll be like, I've had enough cross stitch for now, and I won't do it for a a few years. I don't know why I started, to be honest. I definitely probably just got a kit as a kid, but I think this is probably the first one I've done since, I don't know if I've done one since I was like 20, maybe.
Wow, that's so you took a huge break from cross stitch.
Yeah.
Is this your biggest project you've ever done?
Yeah, for my sins. It wasn't meant to be as big as it ended up being, but it just sort of, I don't know,
All right.
spiraled.
Yes. So what are we talking about here?
Look, I am intentionally stretching this because it's just very, very special. And maybe all this Box Mac Junt's Cart talk, maybe you're thinking she sent us something mac and cheese related. No. She's on the Red Cow Arcade podcast. That means she sent us something Red Cow Arcade related.
Oh,
right?
baby.
This is something for me and EJ. John can sit this one out, okay? All right, here we go.
Oh my God! What? Holy! What the?
With all the little joysticks. Incredible.
Oh, that's incredible.
And thank God it arrived to the United States safely. Could you imagine?
Oh my God.
So, they've seen it. Here, one more time.
Suddenly you're naked.
That reminds me of, there's like all these TikToks of people doing like cheesy magic of, disappearing behind a blanket and stuff. And it's always set to the Celine Dion song, Baby, Baby, when I touch you like this. But it's always the angle behind them. So they like leap like behind something. So tell us the process.
I planned on sending you that box, which I think I sent what year are we? 2025. So I think I sent that like November 23, the box, and I'd intended on making something to put into that for you guys, more for the pod than anything, because I love the pod, I love the clips, and you guys don't get as much like sort of fan made things and fan art for the pod, so I wanted to do something for the pod. And then one night, for some stupid reason, at 4 a.m. When I couldn't sleep, I was like, oh no, wait a minute, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to torture myself and make a cross stitch. I am, of course, joking. Make a cross stitch. Message Frankie, and I was like, can I have the pod logo, please? Like the file. He's like, sure. And then there's programs you can run it through. And it essentially turns it into a pattern. So I got like a basic pattern from running it through the program, but I had to fix that pattern pretty significantly. I started off at like 12 inches by 12 inches. I thought that's sort of manageable, but it didn't look right and the detailing wasn't big enough. You couldn't tell, you couldn't see things. So then I just kept scaling.
and now you're going to have a big spaghetti.
Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful bib for future spaghettis.
I just kept scaling it up until it looked right. To try and get the detailing, I did it on what they call like 18 count IDA, which means it's 18 by 18 stitches per inch, or per square inch. And I kept scale up, oh yeah, that'll do, that's fine. I'll order the things. And then I was like looking at the size and I was like, oh shit. This is big. I was like, okay, no, fine. I'll manage it. It probably won't take me that long, she said a long time ago. And it ended up being, I think it's like 22 inches by 22 inches, give or take.
Yeah, 23 by 24 or something.
Yeah, something like that. So that was, I believe, the end of July 2023. And I finished it in February of this year.
Holy. And how often did you work on it?
Pretty much like every day it got a bit of work done. Like, unless I was like away on holiday or completely busy that day and I couldn't actually get to it.
Is it like meditation when you're doing it? Is it like therapeutic in some way?
Can be. It can also be the most frustrating thing I've ever worked on at points as well. Like, there was one day it got thrown against the wall. Like, I don't usually lose my temper, but it turned out I'd like sewn the lettering at the top a row too short, and I had to sit and unpick about, I don't know, 300 stitches or something.
Oh my God.
Meticulously, very slowly, so there's not to damage the fabric. I was like looking at it going, I've done like 2/3 of this thing, and I think I'm about to punch a hole in this fabric trying to unpick this. And I was just so like, what am I going to do?
I don't think I've ever like picked away at something in such a focused way for so long. But I can relate to the feeling of like, this all has to get redone. This is all wrong. This is like the pavement was laid down in the wrong way. This is fucked.
That sign totally sucks. We're going to have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that you take an hour or two and you're like, okay, that's the new project. It's fixing the problem, you know. But in that first moment, you're like, I'm in despair.
Well, it wasn't the first moment. It was sort of an hour into unpicking it. And I knew throwing it wasn't actually going to damage it. I just needed to like vent my sheer frustration at my own stupidity, or at least what I felt was my own stupidity at that point.
And you know, another really funny thing that I haven't told you, this logo, this arcade, you know, which I think we're, you'll be happy to hear. I think we're settled on this branding. I think we'll
change that now, ever.
As you well know, it was just like a Patreon thing. We were doing it on the side, not to the public. And then when the Short Shorts video blew up, we got the DSLRs and we made it look nicer. And I wanted to call it something. We weren't even calling it anything. We were calling it the Red Cow Patreon podcast or something. So I was like, okay, Red Cow Arcade, that sound good?
We have arcades. We like arcades. I don't know.
I went on Fiverr and I was like, quick, somebody make me a logo. You know, they did the little animation that you see and everything. And I was like, that'll do. Isn't that funny? Like for somebody's like 5-minute work on Fiverr became your like year and a half.
Did you listen to the clips while doing it?
Yeah, I think there's probably been a lot. There's been a lot of Red Cow on in the background when that's been going on.
Well, good thing there's a lot of Red Cow to watch. I still like, there'll be somebody who I know has been watching for years, and they'll be like, "Oh, I never really watched the unboxings, or I never watched I never actually watched Junt SNES or whatever." They're like, "Man, this is just a rabbit hole that never ends." And so there. But I think you've been a super fan for a long time, so you've probably already had covered most of the ground. But
yeah, I think probably. But I put that stuff on in the background whilst I'm like doing bits and bobs anyway. It's sort of easy watching. I mean, I can shock you with how long it took. I think it took somewhere in the region of about 2,500 hours.
Holy fuck.
Oh.
With everything, like having to unpick, like giving myself time for like unpicking and fixing issues, which happened pretty frequently, and like rehanging it on the frame that I was using to stitch it. One of the girls from work knows I've been working on it, and she would occasionally ask like, "So how much have you got left? How long is this taking you? You know, if you were going to charge someone for this, like what were you going to..." So I actually did the math, and if you want to pay me UK minimum wage, it's like £28,000, which is about $37,000.
Wow. So about a year's earnings of Red Cow Patreon and
11,000 feet of thread, 34 needles. I broke a lot of needles doing that. In fact, I think there's still part of a needle in that. It broke like under a stitch and I couldn't physically get it out. And I was like, well, it lives there now.
How are your little hands?
Yeah, how many pints of blood are in this?
Is there blood in this?
No, there's no blood in it. There's no blood in it. I'm pretty sure I gave myself RSI in one of my fingers doing it at points. Just because it's like the same motion. And you can definitely feel like on my finger where like the needle was resting. It'll disappear in a few weeks.
I used to scoop ice cream, and I got like a really strong palm muscle. It like blew up where I was like, yeah, I can fucking scoop anything.
But yeah, no, like I said, it got worked on like pretty much every day. I mean, it just became sort of, that was my hobby. You know, I'd have 30 minutes here and I'd be like, oh, I'll sit and I'll do that little bit. I think the worst bit of it was sewing, because it's black material, was sewing the black stitches on black material, which was the stupidest idea I've ever had. Well,
it kind of makes sense that it's black material. I blame the lady on Fiverr. Well, here's the good news. We're not going to let 2,500 hours go undemonstrated. So I think that this belongs in every single episode of the podcast from this point on. You'll always be able to see it. I think that arcade sign, you know, it's been there for a little while. It's not really adding a lot. We're going to take that down, I think. You said, well, you could get one of those 24 by 24 frames. You know, you'd want to iron it first. Framing it would make sure that it doesn't get dusty. I hear that cross stitch does have a dust problem if you're not careful.
It is a dust magnet. Like I washed it when I finished it, which was like the most nerve-wracking thing. Like washing it in a bathtub very gently to get the dust out of it, and it was pretty shocking how much was in it.
It's a precious gift. It's really, it's quite incredible. So we're gonna iron it gently, and then I have a frame. We're gonna put it in a frame, and you're gonna see it in every single episbe.
That's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
Now, Angie, now that this is done, do you have other projects lined up that you're thinking about?
No, I'm not touching cross stitch again for a while.
Giving a break, okay.
Probably another 12 to 14 years before I do another one of those. Don't get me wrong, I love it, and I'm so glad that I finished it, and I never would have not finished it having started it. because it would have just sat there mocking me for like the rest of my life if I hadn't finished it. It took over my video game time that I used to do, doing that instead. And then I went back to playing video games the other week, and I was like, nope, do not have the patience to do this anymore. I don't.
Like, these are all the same.
Yeah.
I'm going back to getting RSI in one of my hands.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll pick something else up soon enough. I'd probably pull my sewing machine out again at some point.
You had told me something about the number of colors, because there's like people need to realize there's all those little joysticks and arcade buttons too.
Yeah, so I think it's like 18 colors in the whole thing. I did skim it down a little bit because I think the original pattern had a lot more and it didn't really need it. It would have gotten too busy. I kind of like the pixel artiness of it. I think all the buttons have 4 colors if you include like the gray, a shadow, a highlight, and then the actual button color, and then the joystick. That joystick caused me no grief, end of grief, because I noticed that I'd sewn the highlights in 2 different pinks somehow. No idea how I did it. Pulled out the frame and I was like, these are 2 different pinks. Now I have to unstitch one.
You definitely preserve the red gradient, the little shadowing around it. The colors are perfect. They're the exact same colors.
I had to mess about with the colors a lot because the pattern that came through, like I didn't like the red it had picked as the gradient red. I'm actually dead proud of like the colors that came out for that because I think they're sort of spot on.
Well, it is incredible, and just thank you for caring enough about our stupid show and enough to give us something that like I'll keep this for the rest of my life. So
yeah, it's a treasure, really.
And we see you in the comments. You're a big supporter. You're on our team, and we really people often they'll reply to your stuff, so you get the positivity train going. So
yeah,
thank you for that too.
It does happen occasionally. Yeah, I don't know. I just your content's great, and it's like a comfort for me watching your stuff. It's like easy watching. Like Christmas time, if I'm baking and cooking, like the dessert contest goes on in the background, or like the holiday specials and that sort of thing.
You've gone deep into the Red Cow catalog. You've listened to old podcasts and everything. You've gone deep.
Yeah, like your old podcast, How Are We, got me through a really shitty job. I used to work a god-awful retail job, and I'd be there at like 6 a.m. with my headphones in, listening to How Are We, getting very strange looks off co-workers because I'm just like wetting myself laughing in the background.
There's a contagious element to Aaron's laugh. There, in particular, like when he starts cracking up, and then he takes a deep breath, and there's sort of a hiccup on the second verse of the laugh. He used to drive his first car ever. But thank you. And is there? Do you have like an Etsy or anything that people can?
No,
is there anything?
Nothing like that. I just did it for the joy of the making of it, and also because I thought you guys deserved something for the pod, which you do religiously, regardless of family, work, life commitments. They're always very funny and very good, and they entertain me no end. So it was something to give back that wasn't crap mac and cheese from the UK.
This one looks much weaker.
Hot water, onion, and noodles. Well, let me tell you, this is a lot better than crap mac and cheese.
No, it means a lot. It means a lot.
I'm glad you guys like it. No, you're welcome.
Right now, you're in Glasgow. Where's what time is it in Glasgow?
It's midnight. So it's
half midnight.
Sorry, my accent. My very strange, not Welsh, not Glaswegian, not anything accent. So I am gonna go back to bed, and then I get to get up in 4 hours and 20 minutes to go and work out before I go to work.
All part of a healthy life, torturing yourself.
Definitely.
All right, have a good rest, Angie, and thank you again.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.